Hello everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Desktop Central Training Program. My name is Romanis, Head of Technical Support for Device and Desktop Management. It is my pleasure to have you all here. Thanks for joining the webinar. This is going to be a series of training, and it's completely free. This is sliced over 5 weeks. During these weeks, we would cover all the popular modules in Desktop Central. So I'm just giving you a heads up here for the 5 weeks. For the first week, we will be covering the patch management automation, followed by software deployment, asset, remote control, and configurations and hidden secrets. Okay. For the first week, today's module is going to be patch management. So let me brief you about how this webinar is managed. I'll be using the presentation for the important points to be discussed. Parallelly, I'll be switching to the product for navigating the settings and how it works. I'll also be adding additional tips on better configuration to get best out of the settings. The questions will be answered at the end. However, you can raise your questions whenever you have one. Okay, without further delay, let's look at the agenda for today. So it's going to be an overview about the patch management and how it works, how to do about these patch settings and deployment. Importantly, we'll look at the scenarios and solutions so that the previous how it works and how do you patch can be better taken, and finally the questions. Desktop Central supports these three major platforms: Windows, Apple, and Linux. In these three platforms, we support the operating system, the applications, and the third party which sits on it. So putting together, we would see there are 750 plus applications being supported by this. It doesn't stop here. We would actually be adding more new third-party based applications based on customer requests. Based on the feasibility, we would be adding it here in the product. Let's move on to the patch management, how it works. Okay, what you see here is the basic Desktop Central architecture. Okay, it is a very high level one. You can understand that it is a client-server module-based model, which actually the agent would communicate the server and take the task, deploy it on the client side, and then gives the status back to the server. By default, it is timed for 90 minutes. The agent will be communicating at 90 minutes interval. From the diagram, you can easily understand that the agents can be supported from the LAN, from the WAN. When I say WAN, you have a remote office where you have less number of computers, or you have more number of computers. When you have more number of computers, you can have the distribution server basically to save the bandwidth. I mean, it can store the patches and software scripts on the remote office so that those computers need not to come across the network to reach your central server to take this. It can be taken locally. And similarly, roaming users, people who are on the road, can also be managed when you move Desktop Central to the edge. That means accessible from the outside network, or if you have a VPN network, it is possible to manage everything, LAN, WAN, and roaming users. Being said with the architecture of Desktop Central, let's look at the patch management architecture. It is a simple method, simple design for managing the patches. It all starts from the central repository server, which is the entry point for your patch management. This central repository is going to hold all the required details for the scanning. That means the Desktop Central server updates everything into this CRL. Now, keeping this synchronized with your Desktop Central server, we have a scheduler, and using this patch database, your client computers are scanned, and then it obviously comes up with a missing list of patches. From there, your server downloads it from the actual vendor site, stores it locally, and deploys it. So it's going to be a simple, easy architecture. Okay. Now let's see how you can go about patching your network and the required machines. Putting Desktop Central patching as a solution in your network has two simple steps. Okay. Setup is to put Desktop Central to work in your network, basically to set up things. Deployment is to deliver the patches to the network the way you need it. We have different methods to do that. I'll just explain that when we get into the deployment. Now let's look into the setup. Setup has a focus on the patch setup. That means there are 5 easy settings which can make Desktop Central run in your network. The first one is the patch. So when I say patch, you have to configure the proxy, how you reach your internet proxy, or if you have a direct connection, you can use the direct connection, or no internet connection. In case of military or any secure network, you should be able to do that. Desktop Central can even patch the machines which has no internet, absolutely no internet connection. Let me quickly switch to the product UI and show you that. So this is the login screen. I'm going to click on the patch management. Scroll down to the proxy settings under the settings on your left-hand side. Proxy. Click on edit. Now you see configure manually. Direct connection. You don't have to mention anything. That means Desktop Central can directly contact the internet. When you have script-based approach, you can choose this. This one is specifically for the no internet connection. When you choose this, you will be given with some steps. Use the steps and follow it. You should be able to patch your secure network without internet connection. Okay. Let's quickly come back to the presentation. Okay. That is the first setting. The second one is configuring the antivirus. Actually, you don't do this in Desktop Central product, but you would be doing this in your network, in your AV solutions for the Desktop Central to work, basically excluding the server and the agent folder for free working of patch management. That means we exclude the servers for the patches to be downloaded, exclude the agents for the patches to be installed. Simple. The third one setting, what you have to do is the patch approval. We have 2 modes of approval, completely automated and manual. When you say automated, as shown in the diagram, the patch will be downloaded from the Microsoft side, and automated patch deployment system is going to automatically approve this and distribute it to the client computers. So there is no manual intervention. You don't have to do anything. It is auto-approved. Whereas in the case of manual approval, there is an intermediate manual intervention where you will manually select the patches, deploy it to the test machines, and observe what is the outcome Based on the result, you manually approve the patch and the APD system will deploy it to the client computers. So this way you ensure that you see the result and how your native or legacy applications behave. Based on the approval, you just go ahead and do the deployment for the rest of the network. That is the patch approval. Decline patches. Decline by patches and application. This is basically to stop something which you don't want. Basically to stop unwanted patches entering into a network. You can do it by patch or by application for a specific group of computers or for the entire network. The last setting is going to be on the health policy. When you start doing the patches, finally you see the result, and the result has to be in compliance with your policy, health policy of the network. Suppose you have patched everything, all critical, important, and moderate. Only low-level patches are missing that you don't want to do it, but see the result and do it. But the result of the entire network is going to show you are not in healthy system because there are low-level patches which are missing. Now you have an option here under the health policy where you go and say when there is low severity patches missing, just leave it, don't include the health system. Then all your machines will be moved to the healthy system zone, healthy zone. So we use the health policy for that, to comply according to your network health policy. Now, after knowing about the settings, what you have to do on the product side, let's see how you can deploy this to the client computers, the patches. There's a flexible and strategic method for the deployment, manual and automated, how you effectively can use it. The manual mode, which is basically for immediate deployment when you want to do it now, and also for the unapproved patches. Let me show you this in the product, so that will be easy for understanding. Go to the patch management. Under the views, I'm going to click on all patches. By default, it comes to the missing patches because that is what we are mostly interested in. Select the patches which you want to deploy. Now you have install patch. Click on this. It takes you to the deployment wizard. It is a configuration. You can see the selected patches are available here, and there are other settings and a way you can say where you have to deploy this, filter criteria, retry configuration, and here is the deployment mode, deploy or deploy immediately. When you say deploy, it is going to deploy and wait for the cycle to happen and deploy it. Deploy immediately will trigger the client computers so that it is immediately deployed. So as I said, you select the patches, you select the target, and deploy it. Simple. And the second method is called automated mode. And here it is completely unattended. You don't need a manual intervention here. And you can create multiple tasks for different departments, different remote offices, groups, according to your convenience. Okay, so these are all the details that you have to provide in the automated patch deployment so that it smoothly works. First one is choosing the frequency, whether you want to do it frequently or frequently in a week's time or in a month's time. So you decide on that. The patches which you want to select, configure deployment settings, and select the target. Okay. So every APD or every patching is going to have the steps called scan, download, draft, and deploy. Let me quickly show you that in the product. Patch deploy management. Under the deployment, you have automate patch deployment. Click on that. So here is the task where you can create the schedule. Click on Windows. Now, as I said, you have scan, download, either save it as a draft or do the deployment. The last one is going to do all four. Now you have other finer settings available here based on the criteria. We'll see this later, deployment settings. Since it is a APD, automated patch deployment, you have a scheduler. So according to the need, you can schedule this and create the task. Once you hit create, it is going to create a task, and the task is going to run according to the frequency or the schedule which you have selected here. Okay. This is a quick table which compares the manual and automated mode. Most of them are similar, except if you look at the task performed, apart from the scan, because manually you have to initiate a manual scan, and other things are going to be the same. And the frequency is, this one is going to happen immediately, and the APD will do it based on the schedule. Okay. Now, to understand how much time it takes for you to patch the client computers in the whole network in an unattended automated way. First, patch database is updated, which takes approximately 15 minutes. And then using that, the entire network is going to be scanned. That takes approximately 90 minutes. And then followed by the patch download. The missing patches list is consolidated at the server end, and then it is downloaded. So depending on the number of patches and the link speed, it is going to take 15 minutes approximately. And again, the deployment to the client computers, approximately 90 minutes, and consolidation of the results and showing it at the APD. So all together, it is going to take approximately 4 hours for the entire process, for the entire network to complete. Okay. You will see the result with the APD task in a similar way. Okay, I'm just going to show you an APD task, which is already running. See? So each task will show its own result for the scanning, download, system view, patch view, and detailed view. According to the time schedule which you have seen there in the APD task, it is going to update the results for every task and for the respective target computers. Okay, so we have seen the two modes of operation and the settings what you need to do on the server, desktop server. Let's see some scenarios and the solutions. Basically, this scenario one is telling us about the concern on the bandwidth and performance. Okay, when you have a large number of computers, will it choke your network bandwidth? Actually not. See, the architecture which I'm showing you here is basically how the agent communicates with the server. Okay, as I said, it is a 90 minutes interval, so every 90 minutes, the computer will be contacting, client computer will be contacting the server. Say, for example, when you have 90 machines, the server will slice its time for each computer, one at a time. When you have 900, 10 in a minute. When you have 9,000, 100 in a minute. So it is actually sliced equally across the 90 minutes, which will ensure that the server is scaling to more number of computers, the bandwidth is not choked in the entire network, and the performance at the server end is intact, so it is not compromised. Here is the second scenario. So the idea here is manage only third-party applications. I don't want to manage the Microsoft. How do I do that? Let's move to the product. I'm clicking on patch management. Scrolling down. Under the settings, I have patch database settings. Now I have option here. For the Windows, Microsoft patches, third party, Mac, Apple patches and third party. The requirement is to do only third patches. So I can uncheck this and save. Once I do this, the Microsoft and Apple patches will not be synchronized, one. And the computers will not be scanned for the Microsoft and third party. That means you will not be alerted for missing of these two major vendors. And additionally, if you already have created APD tasks, including these patches, they will be automatically deleted because you don't want that to happen. Okay. Let's look at the scenario 3. It says disable individual product updates. That is what is the idea of this scenario 3 as a question. So every application on the desktop level will have its own update service application running, going out, connect to the internet. How to disable it? Now, it is an easy and simple way to do it for the entire network. Come to the deployment. Under the APD, you have disable automatic updates. Just click on that. The most popular and widely used third-party applications are available here. You can just click so that the settings are created for you and you can deploy to the entire network or to the specific computers what you need. Now, for example, when you just click on disable auto update of Google Chrome, just click on it. It says what are the settings that you have to do. It doesn't stop here. Click on the create from template. Now, the configuration is created. You are familiar now. The settings are here. You choose the target and deploy. Now, this is going to be sent to the client computers in a single shot. You are going to disable the Google Chrome update for the entire network. It's a simple, easy process. Scenario 4. So it is a bit tricky. Like it says that you don't want to spoil or stop the legacy application because of the Java updates. To simply put this, prevent application being patched, basically Java. So we have two modes to do this. One is the selective exclusion, the other one is the permanent exclusion. So what is selective exclusion? Let me show you that. I'm creating a patch APD, okay? And in this, I don't want the patch for Java to be deployed. Now I'm selecting exclude specific application, browse, quickly go here, type Java, select, all the Java patches are shown here, select them all, say OK. Now you can see here, this APD is going to do the patching for all patches. However, the third-party Java is excluded in this. Okay. Now when you deploy this, the APD will not do the patching for the Java. Okay. Now here comes the question. What if some of your colleagues or other technicians are going to deploy the Java? Will it not deploy to the network? Yes, it will deploy. So how to stop that? Now comes the permanent exclusion. Under the patch management, scroll down, click on decline patch, select group and decline patches. Now you have option to disable it permanently for the entire, all computers, predefined group, or you can create your own group and add it here, and the application which you want to decline. See? So based on this, the patches for the Java are going to be not deployed to the client computers. This ensures that the unwanted or the legacy application what you have is protected by stopping the Java. You can see here the all groups, decline patches. When you click on this, whatever you have already applied is shown here. From here, you should be able to uninstall that. We have given you the option just in case the Java patch is already available, you can just go ahead and uninstall it. And also move the declined patches to the included patch just by enabling it from here. Okay. We have seen the exclusion in the temporary and the permanent way. Now, let's look at the first scenario. Okay, it talks about off-office service deployment. Okay, so how do I do that? Yes, Desktop Central has some settings regarding this to do. Let's go to the patch management again. Scroll down. Under the settings, you have deployment policy. I'm going to show you how to create a new policy. So this is the policy which I'm creating now. Just naming it. This is when you want to do it during the startup or refresh or on any day. Now, here is the deployment window. Okay. Here I'm going to say at what time I need to do this. I'll say 17 hours to midnight. So that ensures the patch needs to be deployed only during these office hours, after the office hours. When I save this, this becomes a policy, demo deploy. Now, I'm going to show you how you can use this deployment policy in your configuration. For manual mode, I'm just clicking on all patches, selecting few patches, install patch. Here is the deployment policy. Now I can scroll and find my own policy. When I select this, this ensures the patches will be downloaded during that time. Similarly, you can go to the automated patch mode and select the same one. So deployment policy is a separate entity which you can create and maintain separately and add it to the configuration. Now we have seen how you can deploy the patch either in the manual mode or in the automated mode to deploy the non-office hours. Let's quickly look at the sixth scenario. Okay, this is all about finishing the patch job at the exact time. That means within the maintenance window, you should finish that. Okay, let's look at the same deployment settings. I'm going back, deployment policy, editing that. Now, there is an option here to download the patches during subsequent requests, subsequent refresh cycles. This means the patches are going to be downloaded prior to the deployment. That means when you say 17, the patches would be downloaded even before that. And it ensures the deployment starts exactly at 17 to ensure that it is done within the maintenance window. Okay? So this ensures the download of the patches and ensuring the deployment starts exactly at the time what you have mentioned in your deployment window. Let's look at the next scenario. Okay, this is pretty interesting. You thought that the patch deployment is going to be happening non-office hours, but here it says during office hours. Let's say the previous scenario, let's continue with that. During that time, your staff have not gone off the work. Still they are at the desk and doing some job. So how to go about handling this situation? I'm going to go back here and show you under the deployment policy, you have something called notify users about deployment. Click on that. So this allows you to configure what to show to the end user and give the control to the end user, because they're working on something else, so you don't want to disturb it. So you give the control to the end user, saying that this is what is happening, but you can take the control. But still you have more control here. You can force it after some days, and you can also do when the machine is idle. So this will allow you to configure the setting for the end user to skip. This is on the server side where you define it. But how does it look at the client side? Let me show you a quick screenshot of that. So this is what you will see at the client side. The staff who's working in your organization will see this. If he wants to install it, he can say install now, otherwise he can skip. When he says skip, the deployment is postponed, so only during the next refresh cycle this will try to deploy it again. That means after 90 minutes. Okay. Now let's move on to the next scenario. This is a scenario where you have a patch where that needs to be deployed immediately to the client computer. Could be due to the urgency or some delayed deployment you want to catch up. Now, how can this be done? Hope you might have already guessed this. Let me show you again. Patch management. Under the views, I'm selecting the all patches. And now, from the missing, I'm selecting few and click on install patch. The familiar configuration flow is here. The selected patches, the deployment policy, everything is here. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you how to deploy it immediately. Come here, you'll find deploy and deploy immediately. When you click on deploy immediately, instead of the agents coming and picking up the configuration in 90 minutes interval, this is going to happen immediately. The server will trigger the agent to contact the server, pick up the configuration, and do it immediately. By doing this, you are actually triggering the agent to come at the same time to do this. Programmatically, we have given a count of 50 computers for this kind of deployment. When you say deploy immediately, when you have more than 50, the first 50, which is online, is going to be listed for you to select for the deployment. So those 50 computers will get this configuration immediately because the server is triggering using the notification server and making it to come and pick up the configuration. That's ensuring the patches are deployed immediately. Okay. Let's look at this scenario. So this is asking for the need of picking up the computers and deploying the patches. Because when the computers are shut down at the non-business hours, but you need to patch them. So you need to wake up those machines and do the patching. How to achieve this? Okay, again, the patch management. Under the deployment settings, you have turn on computers before deployment. Okay. This ensures it sends the wake on LAN packets, basically the magic packets constructed by Desktop Central, and sends it to the computers which are actually at the shutdown level and wakes them up. You very well know that the wake on LAN packets cannot be routed. When you have a large network and when you have different subnets, how can these packets travel to a different network? So we have a solution even for that. The computers which are alive on the other subnet can take a unicast from the central server and then locally broadcast it to the other computers. So somehow we increase the success rate to ensure the machines are waked up and they get patched using the wake on LAN feature. Okay, here's the 10th scenario. So when you do the patching, you also include the servers in it. Just in case you are not putting the servers in a separate basket, what I mean is the separate patch APD task as a separate target, then you might need this setting to be done. So let me show you that. Under the deployment settings, okay, click on reboot or shutdown. You have an option here to exclude the servers from the reboot. Even if you shut down, you have the same message. So when I say server, it is the operating system based server that is going to actually exclude it from rebooting or shutting it down. Okay. The messages what you configure here and the timeout is basically shown to the end user. This is what you do at the server end. But how does it look like at the client side? So when you force, you have seen the other option here. So when you force or skip, the configured message is shown like this to the end customer. Okay, when you force it, the message comes like this without any option. The timer runs. When you give a skip option, you have options how many hours you want to skip. Accordingly, this is going to take it. Okay, going to the scenario 11. Okay, this talks about the continuous usage. When you have been using this for quite a long time, how to maintain the patch data, physically on the file system. Okay, we have a couple of things which can be done here. So let me first show you the cleanup. Under the patch management, on your left, scroll down to the settings, under which go to the cleanup settings. Click on it. On the right-hand side, you have settings. Now, there is something called cleanup settings. This ensures that superseded patches are removed. That means Microsoft releases patches which actually has the patch of a previous one, which is actually handled in the latest one. In those cases, those superseded patches can be automatically removed. That is one. That saves a lot of space. Similarly, based on time, number of years which you have been using, you can remove the older patches. When you feel that a patch is older than 6 months or 1 year, 2 year, which you don't want to have, you can configure it here. So patches which are older than that are automatically removed from your patch repository. This is one. The another way of looking at it is you don't want to delete anything, but you want to store it in a NAS or sandbox and keep it forever kind of stuff. So we have a provision to configure the patch repository itself altogether to a new location or to a different server. Okay, all you have to ensure is whenever the server is restarted, the service is restarted, make sure this store is reachable for the patch management to work smoothly. Okay, and you also have the alert when a maximum size of the threshold is reached here, you can get the email alert. That ensures or keep you notified about the status of the patch repository. Okay. This one talks about removing the unwanted application which is causing the problem. Okay. So it is actually required. If you are managing a network, sometimes this happens. So even after testing, you deploy to the network, that can cause some problems, which could be a rare scenario. So those times you need to actually uninstall these patches. How to go about doing that? From the patch management, on your left, click on all patches. Click on installed patches. Select the patch what you need or search it here and then select, click uninstall. This will ensure the patch is actually uninstalled from the client computer. It is going to create a configuration and from there you should be able to uninstall it. Scenario 13. Okay. Highly vulnerable. So this is something to relate with the system health policy. Okay. So you don't want the third-party application to be shown as missing. So let's see that. Come here. Go to the settings under which system health policy. We have already seen this based on the severity, you can say the health positioning of the computers. But here, this one is all about excluding the third party for the system health calculation. You can also have some exclusion in that. Suppose Java is something which you want to include in the patch because it is used by you. But you can exclude that here. Otherwise, you can exclude other third-party application. When you save this, the third-party application which is not available in exception, everything else will be excluded from the health calculation. Scenario 14, it talks about antivirus definition updates. So when I say antivirus, the default antivirus which is supported here is the forefront client, which you have a direct scheduler here. You can schedule antivirus tasks by clicking it here and choosing scan, download, and deploy. So this ensures your forefront client EAV solution is actually updated and maintained by Desktop Central. What if you have other AV solutions? You can use the configuration module to push the updates or to upgrade the scan engines. So we can see that when we go for the configuration module during the subsequent week of webinar. Okay. now that we have seen most of the deployment scenarios and how to handle them in the product settings, now it talks about the critical missing patches in my network. How can I get this? Let's quickly check this under the patch management, all patches. Now this talks about the severity. So I'm going to select the severity. You can see all the severity is listed here. I'm selecting critical. Apply. You can see here the critical patches which are missing are easily shown here. From here you can select and install. If you want to see the critical patches which are actually installed, you can see this. Okay. So this custom this querying has a lot of advantages. So you can choose any criteria and even make it complex and get your result. Okay. For now, you can construct the criteria and apply it, see the result, and deploy. The subsequent release, what Desktop Central is planning, is going to have an option for you to save this settings so that you can use it subsequently in a single click. That is an upcoming feature. The next scenario talks about to get the list of patches deployed last quarter, just for the auditing purpose. So it is in the same UI. So it talks about the deployed patches. So how to see the deployed patches? Click here in the columns, scroll down, you will find deployed date. When you see select the deployed date, that is going to tell you when exactly the patch was deployed. Release date will tell you when the patch was released by Microsoft. Deploy date will tell you when this was deployed by Desktop Central to your client computer. Say last quarter, or I'm going to customize it like from January to yesterday. So these are all the patches which are deployed. According to the data what you have in the network, this is going to give you a report. And this report, if you want to manipulate further, you can actually export it as a PDF just in case of reporting, or as a CSV or XLS for further manipulation. Okay. So we have quickly covered the settings and different deployment modes, and using few customer-based scenarios, we have seen how this can be done in the product. I appreciate all your time and your wonderful questions and your involvement in the webinar. So I look forward seeing you all in the upcoming software deployment webinar, which will have more scenarios. If you feel that some of your scenarios needs to be answered, you can also send your questions so that we'll try to include them in the scenarios if it is popularly. We will also send you reminders for the next software deployment scenario. Please send in your questions through email. We are also consolidating what we have got in the webinar. So we'll sure be answering everything, consolidating, answering, and sending you the details. I appreciate your time and active participation. Have a great day. Thank you.